of your behavior, whatever you're doing, flows right down into whoever you're working with. And this is a Harvard study that came about. So 75% of you ends up rubbing off on everybody else. So if you're dealing with your customers, same thing. I ask people, do you think that 80% of the people just woke up and basically at 9 years old said, I want to be this. They ended up being something else, and they're completely miserable, and we all hate our jobs because we didn't do the right thing? Probably not. It's probably because the people around us are making us crazy. I mean, that is really what it is. In fact, raise your hand if you are one of those people that are making everybody crazy. Thank you. Somebody in here is honest. And if you have that thought for a little bit, maybe a couple of hours, it puts you in a mood. You are in a mood at that point. And if you stay in a mood for a couple of days, it starts to become a habit, maybe 2, 3 days, 4 days. And if you stay in that habit for very long, it then becomes your personality. And you do that over and over and over again. Ever since you've been yay tall, you've been doing this every single day, all of your life. And that each time that happens, that creates a ball in your head called a neurological network. And we want to look at how this works. So your perception is a little different than anybody else's perception. I mean, we can believe things that don't even exist, right? Have you ever thought that somebody has done something wrong to you and you find out 5 years later that it never happened? That's what we can do. So our perception can override anything. So that's where we're holding this stuff. Here's the bad news. The long-term memory is like, pretend like it's a hard drive. The long-term memory, it's 1,000,000 times stronger to override. So this is why a lot of us don't understand where they say, how many days does it take to create a habit, typically, in the books? 21. You know, that's the magical number. No one ever tells anybody why. Like, is there some kind of switch in here that says 21 and all of a sudden we're changed? No, it doesn't happen that way. I'm going to explain exactly what happens in your head so you can override it. And the reason why most of us don't come through with our New Year's resolutions, or if we want to quit smoking, or we want to be nicer, or whatever it is, it doesn't happen because we don't know how to override this short-term memory. But you have this chemical in your body that if you have a negative thought, it releases that chemical. So that goes back to the people that are negative. The more they think, the more they ingest that chemical into their body, and that's why they become more negative. And especially over years, where you have the thought, the mood, the habit, and the personality, and they're thinking negatively, that's how they end up like that. And then it's really hard to recorrect. So the older you get and the more negatively you think, the harder it is to fix. So literally, you have to start looking at how do you balance. If you want to have a family and children, you cannot be 80% ratio in your career, or you're going to fail on that side. And your children are going to wonder why you're not at home, and your wife or your husband is going to be problematic. Or if you decide, conversely, I want to be full-on family, you can't go to your employer and pretend like you're totally career-bound and everything's about them. It's got to be a balance, and it's a constant struggle. It's never easy. So with those thoughts in mind, what we're really going to move forward with is, how are we going to plant something in our head? Because as Dennis Prager said, happiness is a moral obligation. If you're happy, then the other people around you are going to be happy, especially if you have families, that it is your moral obligation to show them how to be a little bit better. So you're going to pick one thing that will increase your family life and one thing that will increase your career life. Just one. Very simple. I mean, it may just be for the family life, it may just be picking your underwear up off the floor next to the toilet for the next 45 days. It can be that simple. Or it can be life-changing, where you're like, I'm in a really, really terrible relationship and my goal is to make this better somehow. So there's the extremes. Or if you're very happy in your career, you're going to figure out how to make other people happier in their career. If you're like at the top and there is nothing better, you can't get any better at all, your goal is going to be to make other people happier around you. So wake up in the morning and feel what it feels like if these two things, these factors were heightened. Like, what does it feel like if your family's a little bit happier with you when you go sit down for breakfast? Or what are you doing a little bit differently that's going to make this change a little bit? And then get in your car and drive to work. And feel what it feels like if you're slightly happier. Feel the peace or whatever it is that you're on the road. And when you walk into your office with a slightly different, heightened attitude, look at the people that are looking at you wondering why you were so happy. And feel what that looks like when people actually look up to you because you are happier than they are. And then sit down at your desk and run through a day where it's less chaotic because your career is slightly better because you're making it better. Then get back in your car and drive home. What does it feel like when you sit at home and your day has operated slightly better and your family's slightly happier with you? What does it feel like when you sit down on the couch versus what it felt like before? That's what you got to lock into your head. That emotion has to run or this won't work. The emotion's got to flow through it. And so each morning, get up and visualize what the day looks like if these two factors were slightly changed. And when you go to bed, visualize the same thing. I swear to you on my life, you will build a different neurological network in your head. Some slight changes will happen for some of you and some very big changes will happen for the rest of you.